Hello, this is Annie from Cafe Astrology. I've created this video to demonstrate that we can, given astrological positions without the birth date, can we determine the approximate birth date given these positions? And the answer is yes, you can, but it does depend on what exactly you're given, how much information, astrological placements that you're given, because you can't determine it from only a few factors, for example, depending on those factors. For example, if somebody tells you I was born with the moon in Scorpio, that occurs for 2 to 2.5 to 3 days every month. So it's not going to give you very much information. Even if you're told that they have a moon in Scorpio and Mercury in Pisces, this happens pretty much every year. So it's not going to help you pinpoint a birthday and year. Now, it's very useful. It's a good exercise to for learning astrology cycles and how to use the ephemeris and everything to try to figure out a birth date and year from astrological positions. So that's why I'm doing the video. In this case, I'm giving an example, and here we're given that the sun, we have a lot of information, and we'll definitely be able to pinpoint a birthday and year from this. Here we're given, the first thing that I will do is look at the sun, because the sun is in approximately the same place every year. So we're going to immediately get the approximate birth month and day from this information. And in this case, it's important to note that we're using the tropical zodiac. If it were a sidereal zodiac, it would be a completely different set of information. So we have to use a tropical ephemeris for this. Something that matches the data that you're given, of course. So in this case, we see that the sun is in Pisces at 10 degrees and 50 minutes. Now, because there are 30 degrees in each sign, we know that it's about 1/3 of the way through Pisces. And if you know how to use an ephemeris, for this, I'm using the Astro.com ephemeris that are beautifully presented here at Astro.com. They have 50-year files, which is great for this purpose, and then they have individual years as well. It's important to note that the time zone is a universal time zone here, so it's not going to be necessarily, unless you're in the universal time zone, it's not going to be exactly the exact information for your time zone, or the subject's time zone in this case. Anyways, because I know that this person is born between 1950 and 2000, I'm choosing that ephemeris. 1950 to 2000 set of ephemerides. So in this case, I'm just going to show you, it starts in 1950, and if we scroll to around when the sun is in Pisces, which would be later February and the first few weeks of March every year, we can see right away that on March 1st in 1950, the sun was at 9:50 Pisces and then 10:50 Pisces. So we know that, knowing that the sun returns to approximately the same place every year, we can assume that this person was born around March 1st, 2nd, 3rd of some year. We can't pinpoint the year from the sun's placement alone, but we've already determined that this person was born around March 1st or 2nd of some year. Now we go to the rest of the data. The moon will not help us yet. It will help us to pinpoint, fine-tune it later. And even Mercury and Venus, this happens every year, not every year, but multiple years, many years, that the Sun is in Pisces and Mercury is in Pisces, or Venus is in Pisces. So that's not really going to help us yet. So what you really will do next is find an outer planet, something that moves very slowly, like Pluto, because it takes so long to go through a sign that it's very easy now to pinpoint a year or approximate year from this information. We see that Pluto was in Scorpio at 7 degrees and 14 minutes, and it's also retrograde, which helps us too, as you'll see in a minute. So approximately 7 degrees of Scorpio. Now, the more you study astrology, you'll probably remember that Pluto was in Scorpio at least approximately at a certain in a certain generation. But in this case, if we're starting at 1950, we can see that Pluto here is at Leo, is in the sign of Leo. And because Pluto moves so slowly, it's going to take a while before it gets to Scorpio. Of course, it's going to be going through the signs consecutively. So if you can see, it starts here, the year Pluto starts at 17 degrees and it's retrograde in Leo. And by the start of 1951, the new year, it has not moved far. It's at 19 degrees Leo. So we're going to have to really scroll to find Pluto in Scorpio, because it's in Leo for a very long time. See, if I scroll down quite a bit to 1964, you see that Pluto is now in Virgo, but it still has a way to go before we get to Scorpio. But it's great to be able to pinpoint a year. Let's go quite a bit further. Now we're in 1976 and Pluto is in Libra, so we're getting closer. Now I scroll further. I'm now in 1982 and it's near the end of Libra, 27 Libra. Soon it's going to enter Scorpio. Now it reverses again. When it almost is reaching Scorpio, it's reversing in Libra. Pluto is that way, so it's pretty normal to see. Eventually it gets to Scorpio here in November 83. It's at 0 degrees Scorpio, but if you keep scrolling, you'll see that it actually returns to Libra again. So it's taking its time. So we're going to scroll quite a bit again, not quite so much, but because we're trying to get to 7 degrees Scorpio. We're at 4, 5, no, 2, 3. We'll keep going. Now here, we know that it's going to be around March or 1st or 2nd. And here we can see that Pluto has reached 7 Scorpio. It's also retrograde, so I think we can assume that this is probably the date, because Pluto did reach 7 Scorpio 14 before this date. It was not yet retrograde. It returned to it in retrograde motion in March 86. And anyways, we know we're going to rule out this date, this 7/14 date, because it's in January, and a Sun in Pisces will not be found in January. So we're at March 1st. Now we can cross-check here. We've got Moon in Scorpio, we've got Mercury in Pisces, Venus in Pisces, Mars in Sag. I think we've got our date. Sun in Pisces, Moon in Scorpio, Mercury Pisces, Venus Pisces, Mars Sag. We have our date. I'm not going to show you how to figure out like the time. Of course, this is not necessarily in the subject's time zone, but we can safely say that this person was born on March 1st, probably 1986. And that's about it. It's a really good exercise to try to challenge yourself to sort of reverse engineer this. Try to figure out a birth date given birth data. And it's a good exercise in scrolling through ephemerides, which is something astrologers do a lot. Even in this age where everything's so much is computerized, it's still a very good exercise to take a look through and scroll through ephemerides. I hope this helps. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.